appreciate the support because you've been really a fantastic group. You always come to our lectures and I see the same faces, or many of the same faces on a regular basis, which is excellent. And I would like to thank Dr. Oueini, Dr. Ahmad Oueini, for basically donating his time and his expertise tonight. This is part 2 of emotional intelligence. Part 1 was dealing with judgment. And focus more on the business aspect of emotional intelligence. Whereas tonight, Dr. Oueini will be focusing more on the practical side, the psychological side of emotional intelligence. Dr. Oueini is a professor at LAU. After reading education background, because Dr. Oueini holds several degrees from Columbia University in New York, including an MA in higher education, focused on student advisement and orientation, a master in education, an advanced MA in psychological counseling, a doctorate in education, concentration counseling, and the postdoctorate MA in special education. I think the expertise of Dr. Oueini tonight will be very for us, and I'll give the floor to him. Enjoy the hour and a half of this lecture. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. But it's definitely my privilege to be here, to be invited by the Alumni Office to give a lecture to the alumni of LAU. It's a great feeling, and when I got the invitation from Abdullah, he asked me to talk about emotional intelligence, knowing that there was part 1, which I didn't attend because I was traveling. I was supposed to be part of that lecture. It was supposed to be a common lecture, but I couldn't be in Lebanon. So I thought, I tried to put myself in your perspective, and I said, what would make you come to LAU to attend the lecture? It has to be stimulating in some way, useful, beneficial. But given all the hardships that have befallen us, from the ash cloud to the strikes of transportation, to what's happening to the real estate hike, to the war threats, etc. I thought, if I am to attend a lecture, it has to give me some hope, something positive, something optimistic. So I focused my effort to make the lecture as positive as possible. So this is my promise to you. I hope I'll be able to deliver. Why emotional intelligence and why me? As a psychology and education professor, we have to progress, the various theories, because they're included in the textbooks, and we have to lecture about it. So when I started talking about emotional intelligence, it was very theoretical. But the concept was somehow interesting and intriguing. And then gradually, I started discovering the beauty of emotional intelligence. And I got so curious that I purchased a couple of tests. Because, I'm also a practitioner, and I have, can I do a little advertising here? Of course. I have a center, and I do assessment, psychoeducation assessment, IQ testing, psychological assessment, etc., etc. Because what it says, emotional intelligence is even more important than IQ testing. I mean, that was kind of captivating to me. So I decided to explore that even more. And I got 2 tests, basically. One of them is the Baron emotional quotient inventory for youth, because I mostly deal with school students. And one for adults, called the Merhabian, am I pronouncing it correctly? Sydney, Merhabian, Armenian-American person. So I got the test, which is on a floppy, and I took it because I needed to explore it. And I was very confident that what's the test? I spend my life studying and compiling, accumulating degrees and doing tests. And I failed the test miserably. I failed the EQ test. the Merhaban EQ test. Said, how, this is unbelievable. How would I fail a test? So I really needed to understand every item, and I discovered some of my weaknesses in terms of emotional intelligence, and I started working on that to improve it. So I'm work in progress. I can't tell you I have a very high EQ. Now I can't do it again because I know it. I know all the tests inside out. Unfortunately, I can't unless they invent a new test. But basically, this is something that you have to work on all your life. It's not something that just happens to you. It's a process that you go through. And let's start today, for those of you who would like to add a new twist, a new flavor to your lives. I believe if you're here because you'd like to learn more about emotional intelligence, I don't know how many of you have attended the first part with my colleague, Dr. Shalou. How many of you? Okay, so twice. All right. I try not to spend too much time on the theoretical part, because I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. Is there anyone here who knows absolutely nothing about emotional intelligence? Do you have some? No, nothing. All right. Okay, so I'll introduce it. So the others, please, I know that some of you maybe are experts in emotional intelligence, I don't know. But I can't please everyone, so I'll always start from scratch, because always safe. Let's start with a little test. It's not formal by any means. Do you have a pen? Can you write down your answers somewhere? Is it possible? Okay. So the first question is, time you're spending with an old friend seems less and less enjoyable. The two of you are drifting apart. So what do? You have several possible reactions to this. One of them shows that you have emotional intelligence. Let's see which one. The first one is, you express your concerns and work it out together with your friends. The second possible reaction or behavior, you stop returning phone calls or invitations. You just cut that person completely off of your life. You quietly let the relationship die. You just be very passive and don't do anything. Relationships change and people change. You honestly tell your friend it's just not fun anymore to be with him or her. So which one are you more likely to choose? And try to be honest with yourself. Okay, well, just write down the answer. Okay, so how many of you chose one? Okay, two. Two? Stop returning phone calls. Just let it.
The answers are not on the same.
Okay. Quietly at 3. Okay. That's a lot. All right. Honestly tell your friends it's just not fun. Be brutally honest. No, you don't like that. Well, it seems that number 1 is the answer that shows emotional intelligence, right? And you'll understand why later. Well, you don't have to be hurtful, but you have to be frank and open about it, because that's your only chance to improve the relationship, right? If it's meant to improve. But sometimes you cannot rescue a relationship that's doomed. Okay, you've arranged a lunch appointment, but are still waiting for a very important phone call. But clearly, this is written from a Western perspective. Because in Lebanon, this wouldn't be a concern to you. But assuming that it's a concern. Go to lunch, but complain the whole time about how nervous you are about missing the call. It's easy to complain and whine and, Okay, so that's... And of course you expect your friend to say, oh, okay, please answer the phone, that's okay with me since you seem to be so concerned. The second possibility, keep your appointment and tell yourself you just have to return the important call if you miss it. The third, break your lunch appointment and wait for that call because it's just too important for you. And if you had to choose, you just choose to wait for the phone call. And the fourth possibility, ask your lunch date to bring lunch to you so you can wait for the call together. All right, so the idea is that you don't have a cell phone. Right? You can guess that. Okay, so which one shows emotion? First, which one would you normally do? And if you'd like, which one you know it would show emotional intelligence? Now you become slightly more knowledgeable. So let's see, number one. We choose. Put a possibility, an important person. Not your sister, maybe. An important. Okay. No one for one? Just one. Okay, couple. The second one, so you would just, you would nag, you would whine, you're like a, you're the whining type. Number two, you keep your appointment and then you just return the call, the missed call, all right? And just break it, this is too important. Okay? And we're assuming that the person you're having lunch with is an important person. And the fourth possibility is you stay in your office and the person will join you for lunch. If the person, you know him or her well, okay? But that means still during the lunch you'd have to answer the phone. Okay, well. So the one that shows emotional intelligence basically is number two. Because this is a win-win situation. You have lunch and then you call the person back, right? So nobody's upset.
It's a unit station. Maybe it's not that good.
Well, it's just a phone. It's a landline, basically. Okay, well, we have time for a third. Your other half, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, whatever, has a habit that's becoming increasingly annoying. And to name the habits, the sky is the limit, right? You try making a joke about it, take it with a sense of humor. You threaten to end the relationship, things don't change, so that's really take the bull by the horns. You live with it. You have annoying little habits too, so you have to be fair. So you put up with it. And the fourth possibility is you honestly tell them what annoys you. Okay, so who would choose the first one? Take a sense of humor. Do you do that in your life, or theoretically you would like that? What's the habit of your spouse or second half? A friend.
But that is next to her.
A good friend.
Her dad. Don't push her.
Well, eat. Oh yeah, tell me about it. Other habits, those who answer. What habit then? Or what habit then? Alright, the second you just make it, this is serious. Just stop or I'm out of here. Nobody, you would, wow. You're a tough person. Okay, well, if it's important for you, then you would end the relationship. So we don't have many people who chose two. Number three, you just have to live with it and accept the fact that you may have annoying habits if the other person has annoying habits. But you keep saying, well, I have bad habits too, so I have to be, I can't be hypocritical. Okay, and the fourth one, you honestly tell them, look, this is bothering me. You can't continue. You can't make noise while you eat. Your snoring is driving me crazy. Just be very honest. Okay, well, which one, in your opinion, shows emotional intelligence? Is number 4, obviously, because that's the only possibility where you can have. Well, if you accept it and put up with it, etc., then it's going to eat you up, right? Eventually, so it's not very healthy. But if you honestly tell them what annoys you, then at least there's a chance that your partner, your other half, the other person might change. Now, this is taken, actually, it's not a very serious test. It's taken from an online test. If you'd like to continue the test, it has to be done online. It's the first page on your handout. And again, this is not a scientifically based test, it's just a fun test. And I felt that it makes some sense. It's not validated in any way. We don't have any reliability, validity measures, etc. But it's a test. You can go to the website that's below. Right? If that doesn't work, because I tried it with Rada, if that doesn't work, if they ask you about a password or something, then just Google the first line of the first question, which is time you're spending with an old friend. Just Google that line, and it will give you a directory. So click on whatever and it will open automatically. Right? So you can definitely access it, and it will give you a score at the end. And I hope you understand. Now, this is the theoretical part, and I just walk you through it because I know many of you have the background, and it's not my purpose to bore you with theoretical stuff. But basically, Salovey and Mayer coined the term emotional intelligence in 1990, so this is a very recent phenomenon. But all the credit goes to Daniel Goleman, who made it very popular through his bestseller, simply titled Emotional Intelligence. And I'm sure many of you have it, right? Some of you have it. I think it's been translated also to many languages. Now, Goleman argues that understanding and controlling your emotions is one of the most important keys to health and success. So we're not just talking about success, but we're talking about longevity and living healthily, happily, etc. So we have to pay attention. So of course he based his theory on Peter Salovey and John Mayer and Reuven Bar-On, and this is where the other test I told you about, Bar-On, showing that people who are emotionally astute, that means emotionally intelligent, emotionally smart, savvy, have a leg up on those of us who are not. So if you're emotionally smart, then you live better, you live happily, happier, more happy way. You're more successful in life, etc. And if you want to take a definition of emotional intelligence, it's an array of non-cognitive abilities, meaning there's no thinking in this regard. It's how you emote, how you feel. Competencies, skills that influence one's ability to succeed in coping with environmental demands and pressure, especially with negative demands, negative aspects of life. Now, there are 4 critical components. This is a little theoretical, forgive me. Accurate perception and expression of emotions. So you have to understand your emotions, you have to perceive them. To perceive them, you have to label them. You have to find the word. And I gave you, if you flip through your handouts, you notice that I gave you a lot of information on specific emotions in English. So, perception and expression of emotion, reading emotions of others to anticipate possible threats and to respond appropriately. The second critical component is the ability to access and generate emotions in the service of thinking and problem solving. How do I feel about this? When you make an important decision, so you always think, rationally, you have to be logical, but sometimes if you're emotional, if you think of the emotional aspect of things, it might be more helpful to you. Understanding emotions and emotional meaning, avoid false attributions. There's a little bit of thinking involved here. And emotional regulation in ways to promote intellectual growth and anger management. This is a little theoretical, but I'll give you more information on it. IQ, which is usually measured by certain tests, like if you've heard of the Wechsler, the Stanford, etc. These are tests that we administer, and we get a specific score called the IQ, intellectual quotient. It seems that, well, IQ, everybody knows, it's a fairly good predictor of academic achievement. research shows that 45 to 60% is the correlation between a high IQ and high achievement. So obviously, if your child's IQ is high, then there's a better chance that your child would do well at school, would graduate high school, would go to college, would even have resilience to deal with stress. Because as you grow older and you get educated, you learn ways, also intellectual ways to cope with different situations. Whereas if you're uneducated, poor, etc., then you would have fewer resources. Some kids with high IQ don't do well at school. But they definitely do better in high school and in college. And I think you're old enough to look around and see some people who were probably very smart at school, and they didn't amount to much in life. And some were not smart at all. I had a classmate, I remember in 10th grade. He was probably the one before last in class. A very marginal, instantly forgettable man in terms of academic ability. Now he's flying in corporate jets because obviously he has something else. Maybe he has EQ, I don't know, emotional quotient. But his IQ probably was not that high. IQ is not a good predictor, according to research, of job success. Right? What you need for job success, to be promoted, and to advance, and be chosen as the person who is going to lead things and probably make money, etc. You have to have EQ, emotional intelligence. And there's a lot of research on that by Somerville and Marshmallow, which you can Google or you can check out if you have access to database. Now, the Bar-on framework includes the following, and I try to be very brief here. Okay, so we have, this is the test. If you take the test, the Bar-on, you'll get a score based on these 5 dimensions, plus a general EQ score. But the one I have is for youth, as I said, for teenagers and very young adults. The intra means inside, you and yourself. The intrapersonal aspect involves the following. Emotional self-awareness. That means you have the ability to recognize and understand your emotions, your feelings and emotions. Assertiveness, which is the ability to accurately stand up and effectively stand up for your rights in case someone tries to walk all over you or wrong you in some way. Independence, which means to be self-directed and self-controlled and not to have any emotional dependency. That means your happiness depends on the opinion of other people, or your whatever depends on other people, especially emotionally. Self-regard is the ability to accurately appraise yourself, evaluate yourself. Self-actualization, the Maslow theory, those of you who are familiar with it, is the ability to realize your potential capacities and develop in life and become a better person on all levels. The second dimension is interperson. That means you and other people, not you and yourself. You have to have empathy, which is the ability to be aware of and understand and appreciate the feelings of others, and in many ways put yourself in people's shoes. Social responsibility is the ability to demonstrate the ability to be cooperative and actively contribute to other people's lives. And the interpersonal relationship is the ability to establish and maintain mutually satisfying relationships that are characterized by emotional closeness. Adaptability is to have good problem-solving skills, to identify problems and try to generate and implement effective solutions. Reality testing which is to validate your own emotions, to make sure that what you're feeling is appropriate, and that involves asking others maybe and checking. And flexibility, which is try to adjust yourself to a situation that's a little bit different from how you feel. Also, we have stress management, which involves stress tolerance, the ability to withstand adverse, meaning difficult events and stressful situations without falling apart. And I can think of my colleague, Dr. Ramiz Malouf, who's coordinating a big conference, a 3-day conference at LAU on pop culture. And everything you can imagine went wrong. Half of the participants didn't show up because they're coming from Europe, and because of the ash cloud they couldn't fly. Technical problems like there's no tomorrow. No computers were working. Sessions were canceled. Sessions were combined. Going over time, and you should see him. No. He just he's smiling. And he's happy and having because this is someone with high EQ. Obviously, this is someone who can deal with stress. I don't know if I'm put to the test. I can do that. But, we try. To have impulse control, which is to resist and delay an impulsive reaction. If you feel angry, you have the impulse to maybe yell and scream and then hang up on the person. So impulse control is, even if you feel like doing this, you don't do it. Because you can either control it, delay it, or something. Count to 10, whatever it is. General mood, people with high EQ tend to be happy, basically. And happy means to feel satisfied with one's life, to enjoy oneself and others, and to have fun, basically. And everybody, I'm sure, has the same definition of having fun. Optimism, and of course optimism is to look at the bright side and have a positive, maintain a positive attitude in the face of adversity. Positive doesn't mean being unreasonably happy or optimistic. If people talk about war, you can't say, oh, I'm optimistic there'll be no war. That's not optimism, that's something else, right? Or, I don't have enough money, but I'll buy a new car. I look at the bright side. I like to be optimistic. That's stupidity, my friends. Okay, optimism is to say, well, I have this negative event, okay, and I try to look at it objectively. I don't fall apart. If, for example, you have an exam, and someone told you, we have this section, and you say, oh my God, I forgot to study these 2 pages. If you're pessimistic, you freak out because I failed. It's over. Or you would say, well, 2 pages. How many questions would that be? 1 or 2, if I'm lucky. Maybe nothing. It's okay. It can be a terrible thing. Or if you don't do well on the first exam, you have 3 more exams to go. It doesn't mean you failed the course. These are ways to be optimistic, meaning being objective and reasonable, but not being stupidly cheerful. Okay. Can we measure EQ? You know the answer. And here I'm listing at least 3 tests that I know, plus the test that you have online if you want. The bar on emotional quotient imagery youth. There's an adult version, by the way. And I should give credit to Dr. Herman Hassan at AUB, who validated on Lebanese population the bar on. But it's her property. I don't think it's available to the public. The test that I failed, I'm not going to go on. The multi-factor emotional intelligence scale, I don't have it, but this is an important and respectful and scientifically sound test. So in case you're interested in going somewhere like psychologists and taking a test to have like a specific score, then these are the tests that you should be administered. Okay. Now, we're moving to some solutions, etc. And we're done with the theoretical part. I'd like to give you some like an overview of happiness, and see if it's worth being happy, and what does it mean to be happy, and is happiness something that's given to us if we're lucky, or it's something that we have to fight for? It's a situation, it's a feeling that anyone from all walks of life, if we're rich or poor, if we're married or single, we can have it. So let's see together what research says. Well, it seems according to a study that you have in detail, I've given you a handout, which I got from a psychology book that I used to use. It's slightly old edition, we don't have it anymore. It's a study on 45 nuns living in the US who died, all of them died. And these nuns had written their diaries in detail, every day. There was an entry. And these diaries were analyzed, and they were classified according to how positive they were or negative, etc. And there was a huge correlation between those who were happy lived longer, up to 10 years longer than those who were constantly whining and miserable and nothing seems to be working and complaining and complaining. So this is one solid argument. We can live up to 10 years more. And biologically speaking, I don't know if you have any medical doctors, someone who's more knowledgeable about biology. They have lower levels of cortisol, which seems to be the stress hormone, and there are many studies involving measuring the stress that's from saliva, I believe. Do I have any biology? Nobody? You know about cortisol. So it's from the saliva, and it seems that people who are happy, they have lower levels of that. When they report being happy, they notice that definitely there's a strong correlation. Okay, let's see here. Too bad we couldn't go one by one, but that's okay. What would make you happy? Money? I'm raising my hand also. I need the money. Okay, it makes me happy. Okay, that's it, money. Success at work, to be successful. That people seek you out because you're successful, regardless of your salary, regardless of your income, being successful, you know. Health, to be healthy, The young people, it's interesting that young people are raising their hands. You know as you get older, you know what that means. Romance, if you're not married, of course. You're not looking for romance. After marriage. You can romance your spouse, yes, but not look for romance. What do you mean? Romance within the marriage, your spouse. You can romance your spouse, yeah, that's right. But not to look for romance.
It's a very controversial topic.
No. No romance in your marriage, period. I mean, no looking for another partner. If your marriage doesn't work, then get out and find romance. But romance, would that make you happier? Very happy? I'm sorry, I missed the show of hands. How many of you? Okay. This is an audience that is very romantic. Your favorite team winning, like, you know, the World Cup, whatever, basketball, that's a moment of joy. Yeah? Some? Okay. Spirituality, your connection with either God or if you're doing yoga, meditate, whatever it is, spirituality can be anything. Going to church, going to the mosque, being in connection with God, is that a happy feeling for you? Peace, not inner peace, like world peace, like, you know, knowing that Lebanon is doing fine, the region is fine, our political problems are being resolved. You can dream. Peace, you know, the idea of peace. Looking good, you're looking good, attractive, people making you compliments, whatever, fit, if you will, all right? Your children getting good grades, seeing the grade report with A's and, you know, mostly A's. It's a good feeling, it's a great feeling. Other things would make you happy that I missed out? Family, seeing your kids happy, being with friends, make you happy. Anything that I missed out? What kind? Like safety, to feel safe. So yeah, I've covered that. Anything that we missed? Traveling, dancing, makes you happy. All right. Okay. Well, money. Since we talked about money, what does research say about money? Well, the richest people usually are featured in Forbes magazine, which I don't buy. I'm not concerned. It seems that richer people report being, when we do the questionnaires and the surveys, etc., they're slightly happier than people who are not like outrageously rich. Slightly. So you can't imagine that these people must be happy. Not necessarily. But what's interesting is that extra income in poor countries means so much than extra income in rich countries. So the conclusion here is that the richer you get, extra money means less and less and less to you. But if you're very poor, extra money would make you dance with joy, right? Another thing that's interesting about money is the concept of loss and gain, and not saying from a business perspective, saying from a psychological perspective, which is harder. What generates a stronger arousal? Gaining something, money-wise, or losing something? Well, it seems losing. People don't like to lose. I don't know, biologically, in an evolutionary way, we don't like to lose things. And gaining, okay, makes us happy. If I take 100 pounds, this is a British study, someone who won 100 pounds and someone who lost 100 pounds, and I record the emotional reaction, obviously the person who won the 100 pounds would be excited, just a little, but the person who lost 100 would be devastated.
Stability has more effect.
So losing money has more effect, but in reality it's 100 here and 100 there. It's the same thing, kind of. It's funny that we look at the plus, the minus 100, and we really emote negatively to it. This is human nature. Now, laughing, we talk about laughing. Is it good to laugh? Is it biologically important, psychologically important? Well, let's see what research says specifically about laughing. And I'm listing all the information here. It engages every major part of your body when you laugh. So, which is a good thing. It exercises every muscle. It exercises your diaphragm, which is good for breathing and respiration. It convulses and gives your organs a much needed massage, stimulating circulation and enhancing general well-being. Right? So that's also a good thing. It makes your heart rate and blood pressure increase, dilating your cardiovascular system, which ultimately lowers heart rate and blood pressure. Right? If I'm goofing up biologically or something, please correct me, but this is the summaries that I got from research. Right? So it's true that your heart pressure goes up, but eventually it does. It's just like exercising. After exercising, you feel very relaxed, and your heart pressure goes down. It increases oxygen intake. This is one reason why you feel so good afterwards, when you're happy, when you're laughing. It balances the brain. It releases the body, releases the body's natural opiates, opium, like a big drug, which is definitely gives us a wonderful feeling, and pain reliever. So if you laugh, you will feel less pain. And the endorphin level also increases. That's why we say people who exercise constantly are happier, because there's that from a biological perspective. And finally, it improves your immune system. So, when I think of all the shows that came on attack, that every channel has a show, like LOL and I don't know what, they're attacking them. Well, maybe they have reasons to attack religious people, etc. But I think it's a good thing, personally. We need to laugh, So people are against these shows. I think they're missing out on an opportunity to laugh and to be healthier and to be happier. So it's fine that probably Lebanon is the only country that has that many shows just for laughing. They are brainless. You sit and watch, enjoy yourself. It's brainless. Why not? Why do you want to fight them? That's my personal opinion. If it's good for you, I don't know how people think. Now, this is the big question. Happiness, is it an inner experience or outer experience? So if I give you the profile of someone, great job, very good income, wonderful spouse, great children, achieving, living in a nice country, peaceful, warm, healthy, you would say that person must be very happy. We envy them. We have none of that, or half of them, or whatever. But is it true? If you look at this picture, you don't want to be in this bed, right? It's crammed. There are, you see, the father, the mother, how many children? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children. And there's room for a dog and a cat. And if the hen wants to join, a rooster, is it a rooster?
Yeah.
Rooster wants to join, there's room, right? At the tip of the bed. Do they look happy?
Yes.
But they have every reason to be miserable. So the idea is that, why are they happy? Because maybe for them, it's a bed, it's comfort. So happier, being happier, must come from within and not from without. Now, also in your article, the one I give, the first article, I believe, or the second page of your handout, you can read it at your leisure. I like the concept that I wanted to share with you called broaden and build theory. Put it simply, if you're feeling down one evening and you're invited to, I don't know, dinner party or something, most likely you would say, no, give me a brain check, because you're not feeling well. Are you broadening or narrowing your life? Let's say you really fought yourself and decided to go out, because you just read about this theory and you believe that it makes some sense. So you went out. Is there anything to gain at that party? There's probably good food. You probably hear a joke or two. You might meet interesting people. You might make business connections. You might meet your life partner. You might, I don't know, get an idea for something. You have everything to gain. It's broadening, right? It's increasing your resources. But staying at home, narrowing down, meaning feeling sorry for yourself, having that defeatist attitude, I'm not happy, that negativity, it gets you absolutely nowhere. Not only that, it gets you down. So it does make sense to be around people and to do things and try to be happy, because happiness also, it's like a bank account. It increases your bank account. But we talk about resources, positive emotions. If you try to be happy, you have the choice of feeling miserable for yourself, or you know what? No, I'm not going to feel miserable. I'm going to go out and watch a movie and have fun and meet some friends, no matter what. Well, you are in this way. The positive emotions broaden our typical ways of thinking and acting, and in turn build our lasting personal resources. If you play, laugh, pursue an interest, even for a moment, fleeting moment, you are optimizing. That means you are maximizing your long-term health and well-being, whereas negative emotions narrow our thinking and emotions. So I hope I was convincing enough. And personally, I make these mistakes. I fall in these traps, and I have to fight it constantly and remind myself, I should do this. It makes more sense to get out of my misery, etc. And I'm never disappointed. I'm always happy with the result. So, happiness, in conclusion, is as much an outer, because we need extra things. If you have a good job, income, spouse, these are good things. You can't deny them. So it is an outer and also an inner experience. You don't have to be rich or whatever to be happy. It's something, it's a feeling, it's an experience, it's a state that you can achieve if you want to, if you set your mind to it. Okay. this is the core of my presentation, which is, can we improve our EQ? Or is it like IQ? That's it. I'm either smart or not very smart, or okay smart, average smart. What do you think? The good news, unlike IQ, I mean, IQ can increase a little, especially if you're younger. So there's a little bit of hope for us. But EQ, there's a lot of hope. That's a good thing, but we can always improve it. It's like health, you can improve it. And let's talk about ways, practical ways, hopefully, to improve it. I cannot do justice to all of them, so I was selective, but I've included all the information that you need. Some of them are in the handouts, all right? We cannot, I mean, every strategy is a lecture all its own. Okay, so experience raises your IQ. Training does that too. Coaching, you can hire someone to coach you, but it's probably expensive. You can do it personally. You can read books, you can attend lectures, listen to people, or you can go to therapy. We have some people, some good therapists in Lebanon, and they're not very expensive. I know some therapists who are very competent, who charge $50,000 an hour, which is not bad. It's a good investment. And these are the two techniques, if we need to know the names. But let's move to some practical examples coming from the US. For example, many schools have programs to teach young children to recognize and better manage their anger in hopes of reducing school violence. And some evaluation of these programs suggested they can be very effective in teaching young people anger control. Okay, these kids definitely became better at recognizing their emotions. They improved their social relationships. There was less use of physical violence. And some of these programs are like the Fast Track Project, and another one is the HELP Self-Regard Program. Okay, this is another one. That's done at school to fight violence, because it's a big concern in the US. Now, in the business field, and probably Dr. Jahoub discussed that, corporate executives, who are, some of them, not all of them, of course, are known to be heartless and, they're the A-plus type personality. They don't know how to talk to other people. They have big egos, etc. When they learn how to empathize, how to use their feelings, how to be better listeners, how to problem solve using emotions, with employees, they manage with a bigger heart, because that increases productivity, and productivity increases profit and all of that. So it's a good thing. Now, what are the secrets to raising your EQ? All right, so we have to find ways to be happier, right? Which involves finding joys in little things, pampering yourself, and I'm going to go in detail. Exercising, sports is very important, and combating negative thoughts. The second important strategy is to improve your relationships with others, meaning to be assertive and to have better problem-solving skills. And the third is to deal with stress, and that means recognize and control your emotions. So let's see how we can be happier. And the best teachers for happiness are children. If you observe children, obviously many scientists do in the playground, in their daily lives, they notice that children have secrets for happiness that we don't have. For example, they play for fun, just to feel good, without any other ulterior motive. They're just playing for fun, because that's what kids do, they play. They do it naturally. But we adults, to play is something that we have to do. We have to go out of our way to play. It's not something that we do every day. Why? But kids play. What happens? Explore. Kids like to open things and break things and go to corners and, etc. But we don't explore. That's it. We live in our sheltered environment and we forget about the outside world. Many people in Lebanon, I'm sure, and I'm one of them, Lebanon is such a tiny country, and yet we don't know most of the villages, most of the places. Why not? when we think of sightseeing, it's always traveling. But can't we do sightseeing here in Lebanon? And there's so much to explore, and at least to begin here. You change focus, you change moods, you change things, you do different things. You try to be active, meaning that, okay, instead of having these long working days, let's see if I can walk. Instead of taking the car to Hamra, well, maybe I can walk, or somewhere else. What's wrong with walking, being active, or maybe trekking, or climbing mountains? I mean, whatever the concept of being active means to you. Or you can rest. If you're overstressed and you're a workaholic, then probably it makes sense to do the opposite, which is just spend the day doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's a good thing. It makes you happier. You need to pamper yourself, nurture yourself, and ask others. Like, you can go around the concept of positive strokes, of the theory of Bend, is, and you can just say, I'm not feeling love from you, from your spouses, from your family. I'm not feeling love. You can demand it. You can insist on it. And basically, we also learn from kids, when kids want to nap, it's very obvious. They don't fake it. It's just very natural. They yawn and they stretch and they nap, whatever it is. They're very spontaneous. So we probably need to be the same. And there are many movies, I'm sure, that, finding your inner child, and it's so nice to get out of that mold, and, etc. Can you think of any movies like that? Find your inner child and be happy and just be casual and do crazy things. Home Alone.
The Sound of Music.
The Sound of Music. Well, the theme is specifically to discover your inner child. One movie I can think of is Big, Tom Hanks. Big. When his boss, he taught his boss, because he was actually a very young teenager, and he became a man all of a sudden. So the idea, he taught his boss to be a child, and that was a wonderful feeling for the boss, and it had all sorts of positive consequences, etc. Spend 20 minutes playing with a young child, meaning not just because you like the child, but you can learn a lot from the child. Or you can create your own joy list. Let's see. We have this joy list, but we can expand it if you want. Let's see what we have. Lazy Sunday morning. Sounds good. The smell of fresh coffee. Yeah? You like that? The waves, beach. Ebbing and flowing. Just go there and listen or watch. Watching the sunset. How many of you make an effort really to go and watch the sunset because you want to watch the sunset? It's something that you do, or sunrise, of course. If you're watching the rain, just sit for a few minutes and watch the rain when it's raining and having there are rebates, meaning saves in stores. Just go and enjoy them. Listening to your favorite song. Dancing. Yeah. Just, being in the sunshine. Relishing. Getting free samples, like perfume samples. That makes a lot of people happy. Walks in nature, not in Beirut. Don't bother. It doesn't exist. This is the LAU campus is the closest you can get to nature. And let's enjoy the mountains while they last. Soon enough we'll have high-rise buildings. The smell of sauce simmering. You like that? Going to a play or musical, seeing a funny movie, spraying flowers, nothing big. That's not. There's a flower show coming up in May, right? So, if you like that, make sure to go. Anything you'd like to add to your list? Being with a pet, all right? anything that would make you happy, just a little thing. Little things, cheap things, free things, swimming, great feeling. Hiking, you mentioned that. Walking, maybe. Anything else? You know, like the songs, since you mentioned the sound of music, my favorite things, they can be very... Right. Okay. I think we got the point. What happened? All right. But unfortunately, life brings us down and brings you down to reality. And you often have to deal with many negative thoughts. You know? What sorts of negative thoughts? That things are not working, you know, this person doesn't like me, my boss doesn't like me, I'm not getting on with my colleague, I feel I'm not successful, I'm worried about money, what do I do about this, what do I do about that? Can you write down a couple of negative thoughts that you have frequently? Or maybe you have today. A couple of negative thoughts. And let's see if we can fight them. We try to fight them, if we can, using some strategies. A negative thought that you recently engaged in, or you always engage in. It haunts you, like a bad dream. Right? Write it down. You don't have to share it. Okay. So what do we do? Please turn to this handout, to this page in your handout. Okay. Now, I'm going to go down that strategy. I thought this is a useful, easy to use strategy. Okay, so you wrote down a brief description of what happened to you to get your attention. Just write down that negative thought. What happened? Why did you feel it? Just write it down. It's the steps to feeling good. Okay, so you wrote it down. Now we need to identify the feeling associated with this negative thought. And I'd like you to turn to page 43 of the handout, which is looks like this. Okay, it says feeling words. So try to find that feeling. Okay, so angry, if you're feeling angry, there are 9 words that express that feeling. Anxious, embarrassed, guilty, hopeless, lonely, sad, stressed. Try to be very specific. Okay? No, it can be more. It can be more. Okay? So, identify the feeling. Okay. You all did? Yeah? All right. Now, we go to the daily mood log. You don't have to worry about the examples. You can write underneath if you want. Okay, so write down the negative thought that you have. It's called the daily mood log. Write down the negative thought that made you upset. Okay? Something that made you very upset. Okay, now, that feeling of being very upset, that negative thought that you have, that really brought you down, may be a result of what we call a cognitive distortion. You know what that means? If you think of an image distortion, an image that's being distorted, that's not very clear, or it's bigger than it should be, that her faces look longer, it's not the real thing. You're not seeing it objectively. There are a number of distortions. I cannot cover them, of course, but you can read them at your leisure. The page that's titled Distorted Thinking. Right? There are many of them. And I'm going to just give you a couple of examples. The all or nothing thinking. Right? When you look at things in absolute black or white. For example, you meet a new person, let's say you have a blind date. And it goes okay. It's not great and it's not bad. But in your mind, your family, your friend or something asks you, how did it go? And you say, disaster. Meaning that it was either supposed to go great or it's a disaster. So you decided it's either this or that. But it's not always the same. It's not that. If you don't get you notice people, in my experience when I give a course, they don't do well on an exam and they tell me, I failed. Okay, well, you don't have to have failed, but maybe it's not a very high grade. But they see it as either I got an A or it's an F. There's nothing in between. The overgeneralization is when you have one negative event and you say to yourself, oh, this is it, I'm stuck with it forever. I will never be a good one. I can never do I can never do it. I can never be successful. I can never. So this thing is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. The mental filter, which is very similar to discounting the positives. The mental filter, when it's like you have a shirt that's white and there's a little spot on it. The only thing you say, oh, the spot on the shirt, and you forget that the rest of the shirt is fine. In other words, if someone criticizes you, like 20 people praise you and one person criticizes you, the only thing you remember is, oh, that person criticized me, I'm miserable. Okay, so you decide that the 19 other people don't count, only that person counts. This is distorted thinking. There's the should statement, which I like. When you look at your life as, I should do this, I should do that. By the age of 28, I should be married. By the age of 30, I should be married. By the age of 40, I should have at least 150,000. By the age of 45, I should have 2 apartments. Should. If you don't meet these expectations, then you have a nervous breakdown. You just fall apart. You fail. Okay? So, could you identify yourself, with one of these distortions in the column? If you go back to the 3 columns. Okay? So, what is the distortion? If applicable. Sometimes you don't have distortion. Okay? But if it is, you do have a distortion, then write it down. Okay? Done? Anyone would like to give us an example? Or we're getting too personal here? No? Too private? Okay, well, let's use the example from this. Okay, the negative thought, I'm a born loser. And the distortion is all or nothing thinking. I'm either very successful, I'm a hero, or I'm a loser. Now, the positive thought, how can we change that? That's why we need to move to this. Again, there's so many wonderful strategies. I chose 3 that I feel make some sense, and they're easy to use. If you think in shades of gray, between black and white, how many shades do we have? And we always keep telling ourselves, I'm this, I'm that, I succeeded, I failed, they hate me, they like me, it was a success, it was a failure. But can't we say it was a relative success? Well, it was, some parts were not good, etc. If you look at, and everything in life is shades of gray, right? It's never black or white. So this is just one very concrete way of looking at things. Give me an distortion. I'll give you an example. Give me a distortion. A negative thought. If a man calls... What man? And that's a bad thing? Like you're thinking is, he's interested, or he thinks I'm cheap. Oh. Okay. All right. But, you know, but in reality, why would he call you late? Okay. Well, between cheap and, what's the opposite of cheap? Classy. Between cheap and classy, how many shades do we have? I mean, you say, I'm cheap, I'm black. Or I'm classy. But you can be maybe relatively cheap. I don't know. But the idea is that it doesn't have to be this or that. You know? If I think of something, what if you say what people think of me? You know, they love me, they hate me. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be, look at the possibilities. But it's because it's so easy to say black or white. It's easy. It's easy. Right, but when you look at it as it's relatively good, or relatively bad, or mildly good, or moderately good. When you look at the shades and the nuances, it does make some sense, right? Exactly. Well, yeah. I'm not going there. I'm not saying why we have these stuff. We're just saying they are there. But you look at this. Look at this. Look at the shades and tell yourself. Love me, hate me. I'm cheap, I'm, classy. But maybe I can look at so many other shades. You see what I mean? It's a way I'm being very concrete with you. So you can look at it and say, cheap is black, classy is white, but I'm sure you must be somewhere, not you, the person, is somewhere in between. It must be that. Agree about that. If you rate yourself, you all work, right? If you were to rate yourself in terms of how successful are you as a person, if you're hard on yourself, say, I'm very successful, I'm a failure, these negative thoughts. But you can be anywhere in between. That's the idea of thinking of shades of gray. I hope you got the picture. Semantic method, from meaning. And that typically applies to the should state if you rephrase the negative thought using more realistic and accurate terms. I gave you a very simple example, but you can use it everywhere. For example, if you say to yourself, I should get a promotion at work by age 35. I should. Instead say, I'd like to be promoted. Because if you say I should, and you don't meet that expectation, then you'll be very, very disappointed. But if you say, I hope, work on that, I hope it will work out. Then if it doesn't work, okay, but it's not that I should. I have 2 kids, and my kids should be very, very smart and get high grades. Right? They should get high grades. Well, I'd like them to get high grades. We'll see if they get high grades. We do our best. If they do it, fine. No, that's fine. But the should puts that pressure, and pressure is a killer, right? Yes?
But this means you shouldn't have high expectation?
No, I didn't say that. But that when you said the should, for example, I'm going to that wedding, and everybody should praise me because I'm wearing this $5,000 gown. And, maybe not a lot of people praise you because you're not really the star of the wedding. So you go home and you're very, very, very disappointed. But if you say, well, I got this now. If you like it, fine. If you don't, that's fine. But there's no pressure that they should. That should.
But when you have high expectations, you pressure yourself to reach or to be something.
Well, high expectation is a drive. right? But when you put the should, I want to be a better person. That means I self-actualize. Good for your EQ. But when you say, by the age of 35, I should be, I don't know, what field are you in? You know, I should have a firm. You know, I should be known in Lebanon and the Arab world. By 40, I should be, you know. When you put these high should, you work on it. Of course, you're ambitious. You try to self-actualize. And hopefully it will happen. But when the pressure is a killer, so you live in pressure constantly. Okay? So when you rephrase, no, don't mix should with expectation. Should is pressure. Right? I should be this, I should be that. Expectation is a good thing, but should is a bad thing. You see the difference? When you rephrase the things that make you feel down, when you just rephrase them, it does make some sense. My spouse, you know, should be thinner. That's important. He should be thinner. Well, I'd like him to be thinner. We'll work on that. If not thinner, then so what? It's, you know, I would like him to be thinner. Okay, this is my favorite. Cost-benefit analysis. Okay, well, generally, you're willing to spend time, energy, and money on things that have some value to you, right? Correct? Why is it that sometimes you spend so much energy on things that are absolutely futile and stupid, and yet you spend days and days, and sometimes years and years on absolutely, for example, you go to a party, and someone tells you, oh, hi, Sadiq, my God, you put on some weight. And you say, and that was publicly, in front of people, certain people that you care about. You said to yourself, this is so hurtful, it's so harsh, I can't believe it. I'm out of here. You go home and feel sorry for yourself. You can do that. And you can be miserable for many, many, many more days. Which means you put so much energy on something that obviously is important to you, because it's important to you. Is it so important that you had to give up the party to people, the weddings, just because someone said that? It must be, but in reality it never is. So it's like spending $1,000 on maybe, I don't know, a piece of gum or something. You would never spend $1,000 on gum, right? But you are doing that. You're spending so much time and energy, and time is money, time is important. Why are you spending so much energy on something that has no value? But we are. We are doing that. Okay, so let's see here. A car cuts in front of you in traffic. I'm sure it happened to all of us. What are the advantages of getting angry and saying, oh, you know, so it ruins your day? You start cursing him. Constantly asking yourself, I can't believe this happened. This country is a nightmare. Traffic is a nightmare. I'm miserable here. I can't live here. I should have gone to Canada 10 years ago. I can't. Okay, so what's the advantage? There must be some advantage, right? What would you do? Why would you spend so much energy and time on something like that, right? But you would do it. Why do you do it? No. Or you can say, okay, I'm allowing myself 2 minutes. You can swear and curse and say, I hate this country, and say all the curse words in the book. And then say, oh, I'm happy now, it's awesome. I do that, I call my friend. I say, I just need to talk to you for a minute. I just need to vent. I vent. Okay, thank you, I'm happy. I'm glad I have a friend who listens. Or my wife, who watches. I call her, and then I forget. It's my way of venting, but I try. I can't promise that I always do it successfully. I give it that much time, because it's worth that much time and energy. Yes, it is annoying. I can't deny that. And I'm not asking you to try to hold yourself. It's annoying, but how long would you want to allow your anger to last? If you do, then it must be so important to you. Right? But most of the time, it's not. It's just a stupid car cutting country. You know, you don't even figure for that person, and so why make a big deal? It's always a possibility. An obnoxious, okay, we talked about that. So at the party, if someone criticizes you, just say, okay, this is upsetting, this is hurtful, I hate the person, I hope she dies, bad death, and she rots. It's over. No, let's go to the party and let's enjoy myself. Okay? That's it. You can do that. Or you can go home and feel sorry for yourself and you can do that. It's a choice. The idea is that it's always a choice that you make. You don't have to do anything. It's a choice even to get hurt. You know, you can develop the Teflon, the Teflon skin, you know the Teflon? Yeah. Okay, you say, okay. You know kids, as kids we used to do this. When someone says a bad word, good job. That means, okay, I'm not affected. You know, don't get it back. It comes like this and goes back. I'm not affected, I'm not hurt, I'm not bothered. And it works for kids. We learn so much from kids, but it doesn't work for adults. You can't do this. You're fat. Someone tells me you've gained a few pounds, and there are always people who make sure that I know that. I tell them, yeah, but I love it. Or do what Sabah does. I'm trying to think of an example. Sabah. I always quote Sabah. She's a great source of inspiration. Sabah, yeah, in an interview, they tell her, Sabah, you've changed. So she answers, yeah, they tell me I'm looking more beautiful. There's only one way you can change, right? It's Sabah. Okay, I'm still going down the list. How to improve your relationships with people very quickly, to be assertive, which means to stand up for your right, but gently, nicely, not to be aggressive and to yell and scream. You know, if someone is smoking in a room where they shouldn't be smoking, you'd say, use the I statement with a smile, well, excuse me, but it's a non-smoking area. I'd really appreciate it if you don't smoke. So that means you've stood up for your right. It doesn't guarantee success, but it's better than not doing anything about it, and it's certainly better than yelling at the person, because yelling at the person might get you in trouble, right? But at least this is, you stood up for your right. The person tells you, well, I don't care, etc., then you can think of plan B, that at least you will have preserved your dignity. Using the I statement is a wonderful, wonderful strategy, and of course that deserves a lecture all its own, but we don't have time for this. Just to give you a little example of the I statement. If your friend is late, and you've been waiting, you have the option when she shows up to yell and scream, which means you attack her and she's going to counterattack, and you end up with a big fight. Or you can say, when you are late, I feel very inconvenienced, because that I feel that I have to wait in the cold or in the rain or in the sun, etc. And I'm also late to my appointment. So if you, for example, as a professor, when students start talking, I don't say stop talking, stop. I say, well, when there's noise, I can't hear you, which means nobody can say, how dare you say that to us? It's how I feel about the situation. Or if someone says a word that makes me uncomfortable, say, well, what you just said makes me uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable when you say that. Okay, so that's a safe, it's always a safe thing to say. And I've tried it many times. Once I tried it in a meeting that I had with a couple of colleagues, and we're having a conflict, like one of those colossal conflicts that I don't wish on anyone. And I said to myself, I need to use I statement. It's so easy to start attacking the person. So I was saying, I feel like that when you do that. I feel like that. It's very important for me to keep saying that, and it worked beautifully. It was so tempting to attack the person. I said, when you did that, I felt this. Right? It's something you train yourself to do.
Because sometimes we take things very much close to our heart. This is why
because we get emotional. But I feel like that when you do this. Okay? Let's take an example. Your secretary is reading a magazine instead of working, so you can tell her assertively, I've noticed that you're reading a Jaras, which is not a very intellectual magazine, instead of typing up your urgent memo. I'd appreciate it if you read that later and type the memo. I need it in 10 minutes. Thanks. With a smile. Okay, you can be very assertive and express yourself and move on. Okay, dealing with stress. the first thing we do in raising EQ is to learn vocabulary. What vocabulary? Related to feeling. Now, of course, if we speak Arabic, we have to learn it in Arabic, but since we speak English, it's in English. And it was very hard for me to find you a nice list of feelings, words describing feelings, so I decided to include them all. The one on page, it says page 69, is very exhaustive, very extensive. See, there are nuances in words. The one on page 69 that says, words depicting feelings. But if you want them classified, strong, medium, mild, go to the one that looks like this. That's also helpful. We as counselors and psychologists need this repertoire of words to help the client express their feeling. It's very important. Feeling, as I said before, perception of feeling, expression of feeling, and knowing the feelings of others. Okay, in EQ training, they spend hours and hours identifying and labeling feelings, so this is very important. So you have to expand your emotional vocabulary. The second, evaluate your emotions relative to emotional and physical well-being. And we all know, if you keep in mind that it's like saying, if I eat that meat pie, it's bad for me, right? Don't you have these the self-talk? This meat pie looks great, but if I eat it, that's 1,000 calories. So I'm going to either eat 1/3 of it, and the damn meat pie cannot be cut in half. You just break the whole thing. Okay? So you say to yourself, happiness is good. You know, depression or negative feelings are bad for my health, are bad for everything. The theory that we learned today, expand, broaden, and expand, it's bad for me. I have to be happy. If you talk to yourself like that, like you talk to yourself out of buying something that will make you fat, or etc., then, okay, it's an energy booster. Today, I had an incident that I'd like to share with you. I forgot my shirt at home, and I live in Bali, which is far, as you know. So I can't go home and get my right shirt. So I asked my wife to call the maid and get me the right shirt. Of course, I was very upset. No, well, I forgot, I was mildly upset. So they got the shirt, etc., they delivered it. And I went to my office and I noticed they brought a yellow shirt. So, you know, if things went very wrong, I would have been wearing a yellow shirt today. So I said to myself, okay, now my lecture is in an hour and a half. I have the choice of, you know, losing it and getting very angry, getting very upset. And I normally would call my wife and say, how could you? But, you know, I said, I'm having this lecture about EQ, so I can't say that. Practice what I preach. So I called, and Katya is here to vouch for that. Okay, this is what happened. What are we going to do? Let's think positive. All right, and so I was able to, thanks to my brother-in-law, who lent me this one. Of course, my sister made sure to say, wait, it's going to be too short for you, etc., because I'm big. So I was very happy that it fit perfectly, and I called her back and said it does fit. So, and you know, so I was able to find a solution, because you know, you have to think positive. Do I have a solution? If I get angry, I'm going to get upset for a minute. Okay, fine, that's out. Now I have to think of a solution. I have a lecture, and I can't be wearing yellow on gray. It's going to be a disaster. So it worked, I hope. Keep an emotional journal, similar to the one I showed you. Every day, some people write their diaries, correct? Instead of writing your diary in general, just write your emotions, how you felt, and do it in these 3 columns. So if you go to the diary, the 3 columns, this one, you can write your negative thought, you can write the distorted thinking, if there is any, and then you can write the positive thought. Like the cost-benefit analysis showed me that if someone tells me this negative thing, I shouldn't spend more than 5 minutes on it because it's not worth it. And I should delete it. Like we delete things from the computer, we should find a way to delete things from our memory if it's not worth it. You exercise, and we talked about the benefits of exercising. You combat negative thoughts by doing this. Again, if you have a negative thought, don't give in to the negative thought. And use the happiness strategies that we talked about. Exercise, dance, go out, watch the sunset, be with a child, watch a movie. I do humor therapy every night before going to bed, regardless. I have to watch a sitcom on TV or something that makes me laugh. It's very important that I end the day on something cheerful. And even if I have the most horrific day, when I laugh, it's amazing how you feel much better and you have more positive thinking. But you have to force yourself to do it. It's not something that you do once a month. It's something that you have to do on a daily basis. Find yourself very stressed out. Seek out, even if the last thing you want to do is listen to a joke. Go and listen to a joke. Right? Force yourself. Something. It's like exercising. Some people I see people on the corniche exercising at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to be them because I don't like to wake up early, but they force themselves, they need to exercise. And this is something, you have to force yourself to be happy because happy is good for you. Stalling? Why? Well, if you read the notes, it says, being happy even for a fleeting moment, it has long-lasting effect. So it does make some sense. It does make, it's like exercising. When you say, okay, now I exercise, but tomorrow it's over, it doesn't have long-term benefits, it does. Same thing. Same thing, you're not struggling. Okay, be better at resolving conflict very quickly. Be collaborative, meaning not passive, not competitive, not authoritarian, don't impose your solutions. Negotiate. Use active listening. Think of win-win solutions. Be willing to compromise, weigh alternatives, think about long-term gains, follow up. These are usually the strategies, theoretically speaking. Of course, we need to apply them, but not today. Okay, now I'm done basically with what I need to cover. I've included some strategies for children because I felt some of you might want to do that for children. Do we have time, a few minutes to go through this, or we can start? For children, you can teach them relaxation, keeping a diary. You can have group discussions, readings, drama, music. This is what they do at school, and arts. They do classroom projects that include things like checklists to improve time management, help with memory problems, teach organization, teach independence, and you can do a homeschool connection, communication notebook with the teacher. You can send emails, postings on the web, etc. Success stories. In middle school in Puerto Rico, students work in teams on science projects. When they're angry, when there's an angry disagreement between two boys on one team, they don't argue or get into a fight. They go to separate parts of the room and calm down before coming back together with another student, a mediator, to resolve the conflict. And it works. A class of second graders, so we're talking about what, 7, 8-year-old, in Connecticut starts the morning off in a feelings circle where the boys and girls tell how they feel that day and why. Says one boy, I'm really happy today. My father said I could have a bike for Christmas. A girl, my grandma is in the hospital and I'm sad about it. This is a way of perceiving, expressing, controlling, feeling. A 6th grade boy in California school has a history of getting mad and starting fights. Other kids had started to avoid him, but in his class he's learned a method called keep calm that he uses when he feels himself start to lose his cool. He steps into the hallway, thinks about how he can control his reactions, what he really wants, and positive ways to get them. Okay, now, your graduation project. Let's see if you really have a high IQ by now, a high EQ by now. This is the toughest situation you can ever face in your life. Your colleague has a chronic, overpowering bad breath and offensive body odor forever, every day, every single day. Summer, spring, winter, fall, we all dealt with that. It's nothing new to you. Yet you have to deal with that person every day. So what do? Showing high EQ, of course. What do you do with this person?
Give them a gift. Give them a
Well, might that offend them in a way?
Yes, it is.
So you want to offend them?
No, I will go with them and I will buy the
For them?
No, for me, which maybe
For the person? For the person you buy the other?
No, I will buy for me, by which she might pay me for this action. And
Well, the person I have in mind doesn't care.
Tell
be honest.
How? How would you get?
Give your word on the keyboard.
Doesn't connect. Doesn't see it. I'm talking about real life examples.
I can come to her. Look,
Her.
they tell me I have a bad odor body odor, and I'm using this and it seems not working. I want you to try it. Or we use it for
You have to try it. Yeah? You know, I tried that. She threw it up, threw it away, nothing.
We didn't hear
Leave a note. This one, I'm talking about a real situation. I'm not making.
I had that situation once when I went in the person's house. I told him, oh, I forgot to take a shower today, can I use your bathroom? And then I left my shopping with my soaps and everything.
She would throw them away.
there. No, he used them the second day.
So it
and
worked?
He was smelling good, yeah. It was
Okay, good.
you will visit someone with odor.
All of these are maybe fine. They're fine techniques, but they don't, according to Baron and the people who invented EQ, it's not emotional intelligence. They're maybe effective in some way, but you're being passive here. Yeah, how would you deal with this? You have to show high EQ. You have to be doing emotionally smart. Emotionally smart.
How about taking support
Yeah.
for God or something and talk about it?
What would you say?
I've noticed lately, maybe you're very busy, but I've noticed lately,
So you have to confront the person. I like that already.
I have been done that.
Oh yeah. I've done, well, it happened that I've done it with a student, an adult student, teacher. He's a teacher, and the body odor that he has is beyond any ever. Truly, maybe even when he leaves the room, when he's what? Why? What do you mean? It doesn't matter. He was not Lebanese, but that's not the issue. That's not the issue. And because I'm his professor, so I have some authority, and none of my colleagues wanted to do that. So I had to confront him because it was really impossible to deal with. So I had to confront him twice, unfortunately. So I told him, listen, I need to tell you something. It's very difficult for me. It was very difficult for you to say that. But I really have to say it because you're a teacher and I have a responsibility to tell you that because you're dealing with students, etc. My dear, we have a body odor problem, right? And it's very important that you deal with it. Maybe you're not aware of it, but you have to deal with it. It's important. The next week, because it's a once-a-week class, he came even with the worst body odor. And I said, I have to confront him again and yet again. So I told him, well, what happened to the problem that we thought, the concern that we talked about? He said, oh, it's something I can't, he said, well, I can't control it, I can't work it out. He dismissed it. I said, no, we have to deal with this. Because you need to go to a dermatologist, you need to do something about it, you can't continue. Go to a dermatologist, if that doesn't work, then let me know. So I almost pushed him. Some people are that resistant, you know? And his conclusion was, oh, I have a body, it's natural, deal with it. So I have to suffer all of my life, and he's home free. No. If I have high EQ, I can do it without antagonizing him. And I would tell him, listen, we have this concern, and I really you're very dear to me, but this is a concern for us. What can we do? What can I do to help you with this? I can give you the address of a good dermatologist, good geographer. Let's talk about
to find a solution.
It's not going to be an easy conversation, right? But it's, some people have less of a hard time announcing someone's death than telling someone, oh, you have a bad, I don't know why, but it's
That people don't get angry. That people don't get angry.
no, but when you tell someone special, very hard. It's not something I can do. But this is something that we have to do with good EQ.
Eventually it worked.
It did, but it was the end of the semester, so I don't know if it lasted. But at least the semester was over, and I don't have to deal with that. But I was happy that I was able to express my concern. But I had this. I was in the role of the professor, so I can do it somehow. But if I was a colleague like here, it's different. A colleague might get upset. This is a colleague where you have a long-term relationship.
He was doing it on purpose.
No, some people are just, they don't have the self-awareness. Some people don't have the self-awareness. Yeah, possible. When everybody else didn't want to, because this is something we don't feel comfortable with. Okay, please, before you leave, excuse me, there's an evaluation sheet. If you don't mind, I have to ask you to fill it out. Okay. And thank you very much. I really enjoyed being with you.